Out of all of these individual object restorations, the one that is perhaps the most interesting, at least the most exciting to use, are the variety of Veeam explorers for the different applications you may have on your machines. These are our SQL Server Explorer, our Oracle Server Explorer, our Active Directory Explorer, even our Exchange Explorer. For these, I want to show you one of the explorers here with SQL Server because, well, we have a SQL Server in this environment, and once you dig into the Explorer itself, well, the actual interface is more or less the same. For SQL 1 here, let's go back down to restore one more time and go here to our SQL Server databases and restore then from a backup. For this, we'll once again go to our last incremental here and choose next and provide a reason if we want to. As before, this will then launch an Explorer here. And if this is the very first time you're using this Explorer, we'll ask for further information about a staging SQL Server configuration. This is typically going to be a standalone SQL database that we use for mounting the contents then of the application object. Let us go ahead and set up that staging SQL Server now. Now, in most production scenarios, you're not going to be using the same SQL Server as the staging server to recover content from the SQL Server that just died. But in our environment here, our SQL Server is still operational. So we'll use SQL 1 as our SQL Server here. But again, in production, as you start using this in the real world, you may want to have a SQL Server available to use as your staging server. Now for this, we do need to provide an account here that has the appropriate access to the database and the server. So let me punch in here company/gshields and my password there. There are some general options right over here, like enabling extended logging, but for the most part, we're going to use this as the mechanism to connect to this database server to then mount this database. I'll choose OK down here to complete this configuration. Now, as you can see here, we have our SQL Server with its default instance, the copy of SQL Server that I installed. And on that server, I have this company database right here. I've created a very small 3-row, 3-field database that just contains some basic information here that we could use as an example for restoration. If I needed to restore the entire database, I could come up here to restore either the latest state to SQL 1 or restore to another server. We don't want to do that because the current database is still functioning on this machine. We could also choose to restore the schema of the database if we did not need the entire database and its contents. We could export out the database, its files, and its schema over here. Or right over here, we can choose to publish the database. Out of all of these, this is kind of the most interesting because it temporarily mounts the database, allowing us to get access at its contents. So let's publish this database from the point in time of the selected image level backup right here. If I had enabled transaction log backups, which I didn't on that SQL Server, probably should have, then I could to a specific point in time. But let's restore here to wherever we exist there, the image level backup. I'll choose next down here. And then for this, I'll choose SQL 1 as the server name onto which I want to publish the database. Let me change the database name I'm recovering here to recovered so it doesn't collide with the one that's currently on that machine. And be aware down here that I believe there is a bug in the current version of Veeam where the use current account feature here does not actually function. So you might want to choose to use the following account and then plug in your username and password there manually. Again, I think this is a bug that's been around for a while, but you might just want to plug that in just in case. Once we've done this, let me hit the publish button down here to go about then mounting a copy of this database here onto this target SQL server. And after a second or so, again, we've now successfully published this database there to that SQL server. A couple of caveats here is that we're not actually going to be able to get access to the contents of this database here from the Explorer. There's not much really to see here. In order to get access to this database, once we've published it, let's come over here to our SQL Management Studio. So let me go to SQL Management Studio right over here, and then connect up to this server, SQL 1. Here's my server names, SQL 1. I'm using Windows authentication right here. And if I've done everything correctly, I should now see this extra database that exists right here. There is company database recovered right there. And so if I drop down and take a look at the table that I created here, and take a look at here, DBO company table, I can select the top 1,000 rows here to show you just the very small database that I've configured here. Again, the whole point here is that this is a read-only copy of the database. Any changes you make here will disappear when you unpublish this database. But this does give you access to the contents inside the database to verify any changes that may have been made or to recover any of that data in that database using your traditional database management tools. Once we're done with this, I can close here out of SQL Management Studio. The last step in the process is then to unpublish the database from its server there, SQL1. And so that will remove its connection there to this replica of the database. Once we're done also, we can close down these tools to then unpublish our connection to the files existing in our Veeam repository.